how can we overcome fear so that we can enjoy the experiences we're having and feel brave and courageous enough to move forward in our life? Hi everybody, my name is Chloe Hudson and welcome to World Peace Projects. So I wanted to take a few moments and offer my personal experiences and techniques for dissipating fear when it activates in my experience. I think a very important thing to understand, first and foremost, is that fear is the primary energy or frequency that is used from what we'll call the service to self factions or the controllers in order to get us to do what it is they want us to do to drop our frequency and shift out of our personal empowerment. So if we can continuously remind ourselves that of course we're going to have experiences with fear in our life, because not only is it something that happens normally, it's also pushed onto us as a very efficient technique in order to have us respond and drop our frequency in a way that the controllers or the service to self factions desire. So it's important, I find, in these processes when we have experiences such as fear that have the ability to take us to such extreme heights of experience where we lose our ability to rationalize, to process, maybe fight or fright, fight or flight. We might freeze. We lose the ability to navigate in a practical, logical way. And because of that, it's very important to have almost a muscle memory of how to move forward and function if we have experiences where we no longer can experience our life or navigate in a way that is balanced and level-headed so that we can move forward and shift what it is that's presenting itself. So some basics that we can ground and anchor into our knowing through and through is that first of all, fear will be thrown at us as long as we have service to self factions and controllers and this experience of polarity. Fear will always be used as a technique and a tactic to throw us off course. So if we can ground that through and through, we can see that, okay, fear is activated. This is a tactic. This is a technique that's coming at me, and I have the ability to at least be aware of that and counter it or work with it in any way I choose. So fear's highest self is courage. Fear comes forward as a warning, as a signpost that your frequency has shifted into a low range, a beta wave frequency. Fear holds at a range usually at 20 hertz and below. The maximum that fear or anxiety, paranoia has been gauged is 40 hertz and below. This is beta wave frequency. So that's a very important thing to know. If you can look at it frequentially, I understand that it activates a physiological response in our bodies. It activates an emotion, it activates a mental process, though it's also simply a frequency. And because it's a frequency, you can shift and vacillate your frequency at will. If you need more than your will to assist your brain to shift and upgrade the frequency out of beta, maybe into alpha. Maybe you want to drop it down to theta so it's more meditative, whatever you choose. Or you can use tools such as solfeggio frequencies, music that amplifies different layers and levels of frequency that assist to shift your brain out of beta mode. People that have experiences with anxiety, with paranoia, with fear, all of these frequency levels that are in the beta range tend to experience more beta in their brains than is normal. So with that understanding, if you're having an impulse of fear, you can help yourself by utilizing some tool, whether it be sound frequency, whether it be meditation and just visualizing with your will, whether it be you getting up and exercising or doing something that helps you shift your energetics. You can change the vacillation, the oscillation of your brainwave frequencies out of beta. Very important, because fear is frequency, like all things. Many of us have heard that fear is an acronym, false evidence appearing real. Fear also gave me the acronym of frequency, energy, activating resistance. Okay, so we've got a frequency where it is now activating a tension and a tightness and a resistance, which of course we know whatever resists persists. So if we can find a way to access allowance, surrender, acceptance, fear is allowed to be present. I'm going to challenge all of us to find a way to make peace with fear. Fear has been one of the most catalyzing agents of change that we have experienced in this world. It's why it is used so efficiently as a technique and a tactic in order for the service to self factions to get us to do or not be the way in which we desire to do or not do or be. So it's an efficient tool, and in its own right, it's neutral. It's simply the way in which we experience it, perceive it, and judge it, which creates a stigma or an experience which is highly undesirable. Yes, most people don't like to live in a state of fear. It's horrific. I understand. I know what that's like. Though it doesn't assist to have a heightened level of resistance to the already occurring fear. That amplifies and makes it much more difficult to dissipate. So if we can find the ability to simply allow the fear to be present, hey fear, I see that you're here right now. Obviously you're showing me something. You're letting me know there's a warning going on that I'm going to pay attention to now. And it is ultimately my choice in how I choose to respond and if I choose to react. Now, let's look at some more practical applications around assisting ourselves out of fear. So if any of you receive my e-newsletter, and I surely hope you do as we're moving through this transition of YouTube, please subscribe for free to my newsletters on worldpeaceprojects.global so I can offer you my new platforms, courses, and all sorts of wonderful goodies that'll be coming out very soon. I posted, as usual, a write-up on a study about magnetics. So there is a Magnetition on YouTube. I will link him below. And he has discovered some understandings about magnetics that have never been posted before because Tesla's work was taken away by the government. So those understandings were never shared. So this magnetician has found that when we have two magnets appearing to come together, it seems as though the magnet is attracted to the other magnet. Though what's actually happening is in between the magnets, there is what's called a plane of inertia, a null point. This is pure ether. This is pure non-manifest potential energy that the magnets are attracting to. And when they appear to meet, there is still and always a plane of inertia, a null point in between two magnets. So the most magnetic thing in the universe is non-manifest ether. It's spirit. It's allowance, it's surrender, it's acceptance. So we can understand that how can we assist ourselves to dissipate fear? We can immediately move into a space of allowance, a surrender, a reversal, a reverse engineer of resistance. So that starts to reverse engineer the frequency that is energetically activating resistance, which is fear. So this is one way in which you can proactively do this through your will, just like how you would be reversing the resistance of the activated frequency if you were to use solfeggio frequencies, or any other way where you're going to shift your beta waves out of that state, out of that Hertz range of 1 to 40. So that one is very important, and that applies to everything in life, right? Because if the most magnetic experience in all of existence is pure ether, is pure surrender, pure non-manifest potential energy, we can utilize that in every situation. That has profound implications on the laws of manifestation, or the laws of attraction, the laws of magnetism, okay? Now, I always present the grounding cords energetically because Gaia's heart space, her core, iron crystalline core, is highly magnetic. So is spirit. So creating energetic cords in which you can run and clear your energy is very, very efficient to allow these frequencies to release out of our bodies, especially if they are artificially produced and projected into our fields. Now, another thing that is a very important application, or actually taking away of a subtraction, if you are somebody who is prone to fear in whatever way that may manifest, if it's anxiety, if it's paranoia, whatever, and you are still eating animals, if you're still eating meat, you may find a significant shift in your experience of fear if you were to take out the animals in your diet. Because especially mass-produced animals and animal products, when they're slaughtered, most of them are intentionally placed into an extreme state of fear as they're dying. This energy, this cortisol push, is injected into the tissue, into the muscle, into the meat that you're consuming. So it can be very, very common that some anxiety and fear that you may be experiencing is actually absorbed through the products that you're consuming. So that's one way in which fear can be taken in and internalized as an experience into your body. Another way, of course, can be any other artificial mock-up of fear. So a lot of us have looked at the concerns around 5G. Well, Magenta Pixie has put out a fabulous box, Magenta Pixie has put out a fabulous book. I think it's called The Black Box, and it's like the Black Box Project Negating 5G, something like this. It's very easy to find. The 9, the beings that she channels, make a fabulous statement in that, and I'm paraphrasing, and they're saying that the primary intention of the 5G implementation tactic around psychological and emotional warfare is to implement the fear of the implementation of 5G. So that's really important to begin to understand. Again, their main tactic is to implement the fear of what 5G might do to us. And a lot of us have been very fearful of what 5G might do to us. So be aware that their tactic is working if we are not aware that that is a primary agenda, in addition to the things in which we're concerned about 5G in the first place. So there's lots of ways in which we can counter 5G. She gives some fabulous ways to do that in her book, and you can go get that and find that and understand those ways in which the 9 offer you. We can also assist ourselves in ramping up an anti-radiation gear, or whatever that is for you. I'm using magnetic therapy. I have purchased some extremely powerful magnets in which I wear on my body to regulate my magnetic cycles to assist myself. So there's also ways in which we can understand that nanotechnology is also coming in different forms through chemical-laden foods and you know, the bioengineered warfare of chemtrails and all of this. So we can assist ourselves to cleanse our body out, drink more hydrogen ionized water, you know, do our detoxing, have a cleaner, healthier lifestyle, things like this. There's a lot of ways in which, including our energetic practices to keep our frequency high, in which we can expel and eradicate out these fear implementing tactics. Another way in which I want to offer you the ability to get very concise on how to alter your brainwave frequencies in your entire frequential body. I like to call this your baseline frequency. So this is a very simple technique to apply, though it takes practice like anything, to begin to master. You have a baseline frequency. We all do. What is our resting state? And be aware that what you believe your resting state to be might be more anxious or more depressed than your true natural resting state because of things placed into your environment that affect you, such as the 5G and the Wi-Fi, things like this, that you could help yourself to get away from. So find your baseline frequency, right? And you can play with this really quickly through thought. You can give yourself a thought of something fabulous that happened, and that'll immediately raise your baseline frequency. And then you can give yourself a thought of something horrible that's happened, that'll immediately drop your baseline frequency. So you see how easy it is to vacillate up and down out of your baseline frequency every day. Well, if you have the ability to memorize your baseline frequency through and through, you can then theoretically apply this to any time you are off kilter or out of your baseline frequency. I do this all the time, and you can get so precise in this application that you can register the slightest little frequency change. So this is how I assist my clients in session, because if I feel or sense the tiniest little notion of a frequency shift, that's how I can start to access and locate if there's entities in the field, if there's false thoughts coming in, if there's, you know, soul fragments, aspects like this. I follow the frequency, because anything that is not of baseline, you know, in general, in that state, I use spirit as baseline, is something that requires assistance to be cleared. So in your day, start to play with your baseline frequency to notice, are you off? Is something coming in to impulse you or press you? Are you having negative thoughts? Are you having false thoughts that are coming into your brain? If you don't know what false thoughts are, please check out my video, False Thought Forms. So there's lots of different things in which can be imposed into your experience or absorbed into your body or your thoughts, your emotions that might not actually even be yours, but you're reacting to them. And so a very efficient, quick way to serve yourself is to simply become aware that you're being impulsed by something that's not your frequency range. And once you notice it, then you can eradicate it. First, through allowance that it's here, you accept that it's here. We're always impulsed with this stuff. That's just what happens. And then we can make a decision to identify it and address it, you know, because fear will often have us react in a way where we want to run away. We want to escape it. Though you can accept its presence, you can allow it and address it in order to dissipate it and move through it. Okay? And another thing that's very important to understand about fear, especially for the awakeners. Okay, so there's a process in awakening. It's a fabulous cycle that happens. We all have our own level of cognitive dissonance. And this is this ignorance is bliss state. This is this, we don't really want to look at it, or we haven't looked at it. And then suddenly something comes forward and it cracks a layer of your cognitive dissonance. It blows it wide open and it gives you an awareness. Now, usually the next stage of that experience or cycle is fear. It's overwhelm, it's concern, it's worry. How do I deal with this? What do I do? What's happening to our world? All of this stuff. And that's an uncomfortable space to be in. But if you recognize the stages of the cycle, you can accept how fruitful the full cycle is, even though one stage is very, very uncomfortable, right? We look at the cycles of birth and life. And so I would call this breaking of the cognitive dissonance, a death of that cognitive dissonance, a necrotic state, right? It's very uncomfortable. Though after you move through this overwhelm, or while you're moving through it, you're processing. You're finding, hopefully, ways in which you can cope and deal and understand. You're revealing to yourself that it's okay, because usually it's already happening anyway. You're just becoming aware of it. The only thing that has changed in these cycles often are your awareness. It's your releasing of your cognitive dissonance. It's been this way. So you move through your process, you move through your integration. That dissipates and relieves you of the fear and the overwhelm and the anxiety. And then you level up. You find a new way to expand in your being. You're now more enlightened. You're now more aware. You are more empowered if you have made this work for you and you have embraced this cycle. If you can understand this is always happening, and it's going to continue to happen faster and faster as we're moving into an amazing age and stage of awakening. So be aware that these cycles are natural, they're helpful for you, and if you can allow yourself to embrace that process, it can ease the discomfort and the resistance of the stage of this cycle that is fear, that is overwhelm. Your processing is important. It's a beautiful stage. It's releasing what no longer serves you and helping you to empower yourself. Often the brain struggles with this. It wants to hold on to the fear. It wants to have more logical reasoning. And you have to assist yourself as a multi-density being in accessing your heart space so that your brain doesn't consume the entire process and make it very, very uncomfortable. I hope that this has served you guys. If you are interested in more education, having a personal session where we can tune into your soul and talk to spirit to assist you in any way, I would love to hear from you. You can reach me at my website, worldpeaceprojects.global. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.